Good morning. What's up, YouTube? Dismal day here. This is probably the worst summer I think we've ever had in Australia, especially like around the summer period. It's rained constantly for like a while, which sucks a little bit, but today we're going to go through some cool stuff. We are going to go through a joint-friendly shoulders and arms workout. So a lot of you guys asking questions through Instagram in terms of what are safe exercises for longevity of joint, ligament, tendon health, that sort of stuff. But also, you want to be able to incorporate exercises that are still going to stimulate growth. And that's exactly what we're going to go through today. So when we're talking about joint health, we have to first look at our structure, which we'll go through as well. Everyone's structure is that little bit different, and it's when you sort of compromise that structure too much away from how you move from a day-to-day basis, then you're going to increase your risk of injury. So for example, if you stand in a particular position like I am now, with my arms down at the side, if you notice, there's the kink in my elbow. So my elbow doesn't go completely straight, it comes out here and it curls in that way. So if I naturally do a curling motion, it's slightly off center. Then if I want to sort of take a flat bar and try and manipulate and keep this humerus, this bone here where it is, and then try and force this joint into this straight arm, and then apply a lot of load and a lot of tension, I'm going to feel significant tension into my joint. So we'll go through a little exercises that are going to basically avoid that pain, because we want to be lifting for a long time, not just a good time. So follow me. So first exercise we're going to go through is a trap 3 raise. So trap 3, we're looking at these sort of lower fibers of your trapezius, which are sort of down here in and around your shoulder blade. So firstly, I see this exercise used a lot, which is great. I love this exercise, but it's also done completely incorrectly. We've got to remember that if we're in this position, we're trying to hit those lower fibers, so we've got to contract and recruit those fibers first and foremost by retracting, so shoulder blades together, and depressing our scapula. So essentially taking our shoulder blades, trying to tuck them into our back pocket before we do this raise, where a lot of people, you do this on a bench ideally, but we don't have one here. So they do this position and then just raise up through here. Okay, without retracting and depressing, we're not getting a lot of those trap 3 fibers in. You're going to get some medial deltoid and some rear deltoid in here as well, but should be done like this. So we're retracting and depressing first, then we elevate that arm. We don't just elevate the arm. And if you look at the range, if I don't retract and depress, this is what happens. My range is here. A lot of tension in this medial deltoid. If I retract and depress, my range is much higher. Still in my medial deltoid, but I can get a lot of tension in around that sort of trap 3 area. And think about driving it out, sort of like a Y. It's a controlled movement, it's not rushed. I'm holding on to, again, generally with a trap 3 raise, do it on a sort of a 45-degree inclined bench. We don't have one in this room, so I'm using this as a bit of a stability tool. Remember, just because something's less stable doesn't mean it's better. Always ask, what's the focus? What's the goal of the exercise? The goal of this exercise is to stimulate and recruit the muscle of that lower sort of trapezius area, not just to add a stability tool because it looks cool. Just because something looks cooler doesn't mean it's necessarily better. Always figure out what the purpose of the exercise, what the intent of the exercise is first, before we decide to add load. So, shoulder training. A big component of shoulder training is understanding the mechanics of the shoulder. So what you got to understand is that when the shoulder, when we want to recruit those muscles, we got to think about the muscle that's on top will work the hardest. So we've predominantly got 3 heads of the delta. We've got the anterior, so the front, we've got the medial, which is the side, and we've got the posterior, or the rear delta, which is at the back. So whichever one of those is facing up is going to work the hardest. So if we're looking at to work the predominantly anterior of the medial deltoid, in that position there, we're getting a lot of anterior here, a lot of medial deltoid. Say for if I went into more of a 75 degree angle on a bench, for example, and press straight up, yeah, I'm getting a decent amount of pec fibers, but I'm also getting a ton of anterior deltoid. So remember that whenever you're training shoulder, think whatever muscle's on top is going to work the hardest. So when we're working this joint-friendly exercises, because the load is going to be a little bit lighter, my repetitions are going to be much higher. And I like supersetting these as well. Get a nice lot of blood flow to the shoulder as well. Feels great when you have that shoulder pump as well. I know girls like that as well. So what we're going to be doing is a 45-degree lean away side lateral raise into a lying lateral raise. So we're hitting predominantly here, medial head of the deltoid, so that side, a little bit of the posterior as well. So total wet reps and sets, we're going to work 4 sets of 10 to 15 reps of both exercises. So, when we're looking at the 45-degree angle, the axis is a 45-degree angle, but if there's too much stress in your joint, just manipulate that angle. You see, I was probably like 55, 65 degree. I wasn't quite at this. I was probably a little bit more upright. For me, going to 245 is going to it puts a lot of stress on my joint. So I like staying that a little bit more upright. Still going to hit these fibers nicely as well. So 4 sets, 10 to 15 reps of each exercise. Remember, the focus is what muscle sitting on top. That's the one that I want to recruit, and that's the one I want to focus on the most. When we're doing this lying down one, I like to slightly internally rotate my body. When we're looking at the strength curve, essentially, of that movement, is that it starts off at the bottom, relatively easy, then it gets harder around that mid-range, and then you have this drop off at the top. That sort of top third isn't really that difficult. So I like internally rotating it a little bit because it puts a little bit more stress on my posterior deltoid. I like the feeling of it rather than try to sit completely upright, where we're going to get anterior, a little bit of medial as well, then some posterior. I like internally rotating so that we're at a degree where my anterior deltoid doesn't really need to do much, so it doesn't do anything through that exercise, and I can put more stress on that medial and that posterior deltoid. Next up, we're going to do a tricep, which is 3 exercises back to back. Tri, meaning 3, right? Genius. So what we're going to do in here, we're going to do a bent over rear delt fly, okay, seated on the bench. Then we're going to do a poliquin raise, which I'll go through when we go through it, and then also a rear delt fly as well with the band. So our rep range, we're going to be working at 8 to 10 for the first one, 10 to 12 for the second exercise, and 12 to 15 for the third exercise. Whenever we're working with any rep range, you've got to remember that the intensity has got to be relevant to the rep range that you're using. So the intensity meaning the load. So if you're doing a 6 rep exercise, so for example a shoulder press, but you're using a weight that you use for a 15 rep, it's not going to correlate to much growth. So the exercise that we are going to be using, the weight that we're going to be using is going to be relevant to the rep range. Each rep range that will work out, whether it's a 1 to 5, a 5 to 10, a 10 to 20, is going to be working and recruiting different muscle fibers. So the muscle fibers that are predominantly used in a 6 rep range are going to be different to those that are going to be used in a 15 rep range. So we're going to be working across the 8 to 15 rep range, which is great for hypertrophy or muscle building stimuluses, all right? So first one, we're going to do a rear delt fly of 8 to 10. Poliquin raise. It's also known as a telelateral raise, but the poliquin raise is probably the most common way of calling this. So what we're going to best to do, we're going to start with a hammer curl. From this position, we do a bent arm side lateral raise. We extend those arms completely out and lower down. This is a control movement. It's not this. It's a very, very controlled movement. So this is our starting position here. We come up, extend out, all the way down. Come back to the starting position, raise, extend out, and down. So we're hitting from this position here, a lot of medial deltoid, extend out medial and posterior deltoid. We get a lot of shoulder stability muscles in here as well. And then we're lowering down nice and controlled. So don't rush this movement at all. Oh, my shoulders. Oh, they're gassed out. Damn. It's been a while since I've just worked shoulders only. When we get that pump-like feeling, what we mean by that is that we've got a lot of blood flow rushing to that muscle, which is going to create what we call cell swelling. So basically the tissue is going to look like this. Then we get a lot of nutrients and a lot of blood flow in there, and it starts to expand as well, just because of a lot of the blood flow that's in there. So that's what we call the pump-like effect.
The greatest feeling you can get in a gym is the pump. Your muscles get a really tight feeling, like your skin is going to explode any minute. I'm like getting the feeling of coming in the gym, I'm getting the feeling of coming at home, I'm getting the feeling of coming backstage when I pump up. So I'm coming day and night. I mean, it's terrific, right?
Talking about the pump flow.
Is it the girlfriend again?
Again, every fucking time. What the fuck? Hi, darling. I'm good, baby. How are you? Hi, baby. Respect element here. Girls and guys, know when your boo is training, all right? Leave them the fuck alone. Talk to them afterwards. I'm joking, you can call them wherever you want. Right, so we've gone through a decent amount of shoulder exercise. So right there, 5 working sets. So we've got 4 working sets of the superset exercises. That'll give us 8 working sets. And then remember, when you're warming up for something, the warm-up sets don't count as your working sets. Your warm-up sets are basically to prepare your nervous system, your brain, and also your body, your cellular system for the exercise and the task at hand. The warm-up sets don't count as your working sets. So if you do 5 sets in total, 3 in a warm-up, you've done 2 working sets, okay? So warm-up sets are gonna build up to your working sets. Once you feel that you're ready to work, then we start your working sets. So we did 8 working sets to start with, and then we just did an extra 15 working sets. Okay, so all in all, that's 23 working sets, which is a fucking big amount of volume to work in one workout. The bonus is that the load wasn't overly heavy. The load was overly heavy. 23 working sets is a lot of working sets for one workout cumulatively over the course of the week. But because our load was quite low, we can push that volume just a little bit. But remember, it's always got to be created in context of the greater picture. What are you trying to achieve? If you're trying to stimulate hypertrophy or muscle growth, we want to be working around 10 to 20 sets per body part per week for optimal muscle growth. Now that's going to depend on where you are with your training, whether you're a beginner, intermediate, advanced, what your maximum recovery volume is, your MRV. Everything's going to be very dictated on you as an individual person. So make sure that you're tracking and monitoring everything. So you don't want to just jump into a workout that's got a ton of volume. Again, today's a little bit different because the weight is relatively low. I mean, we were using 8 kilos max for our side lateral raises and our bent over raises as well. So next we're going to do a couple of arm exercises that are going to be very joint friendly. So guys, when we're looking at the training structure or your own training structure, and we're working out this 10 to 20 sets per body part per week for optimal hypertrophy, you've got to understand the grand scheme of things. Like hypertrophy, especially muscle building, isn't done in 4, 6, 8 weeks. It's done over a long period of time, but making sure you've got a structure. And if you want help with that, check out this book right here. Link is below. Go down into the website and check it out, okay? It's on discount at the moment. A lot of the times when we want something, I'm a massive believer in investing. I've got my own coach. I've got my own health and fitness coach, even though I'm a qualified PT with a good amount of experience and a decent enough amount of knowledge. But I'm still always educating myself and getting myself to the next step. So if you want to jump in and get yourself to that next stage quickly, jump on, grab the book, and go and make sure that you're making this progress. Educate yourself. Once you have that education and that knowledge, no one can take that away from you. You can apply it yourself. The goal with any of these programs is to educate you enough so you can go, hey, I'm good now. I understand what the fuck's going on and I can continue this. So stop wasting time. It's 2021 for fuck's sake. You've been doing this for the past 2, 3, 4 years and wondering why you've stalled and plateaued in your progress, make the investment. Okay, so we've hit a lot of shoulders, we're gonna hit some arms next. So we're going to do a superset again, sorry, for biceps. So 2 exercises for biceps, 2 exercises for triceps, and a superset-like manner. So when we look at the bicep, we've got to understand there's 3 different components of the bicep. There's their biceps brachialis, which sits sort of underneath the top of this. We've got the bicep brachii, which is this thing over the top. We've got the brachioradialis, which sort of runs in here, and it runs down the forearm in here, this thick bit of tissue, and runs into the bicep too. So when we're doing an exercise, we've got to understand what we're trying to actually do. So first exercise, which I actually got from Dr. Jordan Shallow, who's a powerlifting chiropractor. The guy's a beast, so go check him out. I will actually tag him, he's been on our podcast. So if you've not already checked out the podcast, what the fuck are you doing? We've got some of the brightest minds in the health and fitness industry on the show. It looks like this. Here's the banner right here. Go to the link below and go into the podcast. It's called The Abby Khan Show. It is on Apple Podcasts. It is on Spotify and all your other listening devices as well. So Dr. Jordan Shallow is brilliant. He's one of the guests on there and he's one of the smartest human beings I've ever met. So when we look at the bicep curl, we've got to imagine that in this particular position, everyone's, like we spoke about briefly, their structure's different and their bicep anatomy is different. We want to align those bicep fibers enough so that we're optimizing the recruitment of the fibers and we're not trying to go too far sort of internally or externally. So when we're doing a bicep curl, this particular one, I'm just call it a lean away bicep curl, I guess. I'm not sure the exact name, what he calls it, but instead of curling up from here, we're going to lean very slightly to one side so that we're curling this completely vertical like fashion, and we're able to get a ton of bicep recruitment in there. So we're going to start off with 8 reps on each side, and then we're going to move to another exercise. And remember, when we're doing bicep curls or any exercise, working through a full range of motion is going to get us the greatest recruitment. If you want to grow, work through a full range of motion. Stop just sticking to partials. Partials have their place for sure, but when we're going through a bicep motion, we want to focus on contracting the tricep so the bicep completely lengthens. And then what we can do here is focus on recruiting this tissue first and then driving as much stress, as much tension into here as possible. Then the tricep needs to come into play at the end of the movement. So we've got bicep here, contracting, still contracting on the way down. Don't just let the dumbbell take over. We're constantly pushing up against gravity when we're doing a bicep curl. So always still under tension, still under tension, still under tension, still under tension. Very briefly squeezing the tricep and then coming straight back into tension with that bicep. So first exercise, we've got that lean away dumbbell bicep curl, and then we're going to go into a Zottman curl, okay? So this Zottman curl, again, understanding those 3 heads of bicep, we're going to be going into a supinated grip, so palms forward, curling all the way up, rotating internally, and then lowering down, again in that controlled manner. Then we turn, and we go again. The great thing about this Zottman curl is we're hitting all these heads, we're hitting this biceps brachialis as well, still hitting those, and then in this pronated position is where we really can recruit the brachioradialis. That's why reverse curls are a really good idea for hitting that brachioradialis. So I'm going a little bit lighter with these, just with that nerve pain that I've got in my arm. This is not overly comfortable, it's not bad, but I don't want to push it too much. So we're going to be doing 15 reps here. So 4 sets of each exercise, 8 of the first on each arm, and then 15 here. So next up, we're going to do 2 tricep exercises. We're going to go with a decline push-up, but tricep focus. So those elbows are going to, you might have heard of sort of diamond sit-ups. This doesn't really matter too much. It matters the elbow position. That's going to dictate the emphasis on the tricep. not so much your hand position. So I wanted to go roughly around shoulder width, but I found that really fucking uncomfortable. So, and it's unnecessary. So I wanted to go roughly around shoulder width, ensuring that your elbows are tucked close in. They don't necessarily have to be rubbing against rib cage. Again, everyone's mechanics are very, very different. So we got to get into a position where you're able to feel and recruit a ton of triceps. So we're going to go close grip, tricep extension. Then we're just going to hit the muscle in this sort of mid-range position, and then we're going to hit the triceps in the lengthened position, which is this overhead position. Again, getting into the position that's going to allow the most emphasis on your triceps. So it might not necessarily be here tucked in, it might be sort of flared out just a little bit, and as long as it's not out here somewhere. But again, if you feel a ton of tricep in there, there's something to say about the amount of stress that you can create on that tricep. So somewhere sort of around here to here should be pretty good. So first exercise, 4 sets in total, superset manner. We're going to do 10 decline tricep extensions, decline tricep push-ups. You can tell I ain't eating today. I'm just like slurring my words like I'm drunk. And then we're going to do 15 on each arm overhead tricep extension. This one, again, opposite to bicep, is lengthening that tricep, getting a nice squeeze in here, keep squeezing, keep pushing up against gravity. Squeeze the bicep at the bottom to completely lengthen the tricep, and then extend up. Not this shit, control. Always be in control of that, of the load. Okay? We don't just want to do an exercise for the sake of doing it to boost our ego a little bit. Body doesn't give a fuck about your ego, okay? Care about the tension on that muscle and being able to control the repetition again through the whole thing. When I'm at this bottom position, I'm contracting that bicep, but I'm still pushing up against this band because I want this to work through the whole thing. We rest when we finish the repetition. We rest when we've done those 15 repetitions. In order to instill some kind of growth, we need to be going to some degree of failure. We can't sort of sit. So with those push-ups there, as you saw, like I was struggling like hell to get that last one out. If I was to stop, say, 10 short of that, I'm not really going to instill that much growth. And again, looking at your structure, thinking about how many of those reps, if you're working off reps in reserve, anywhere from sort of the 1 to 3 reps in reserve is going to create a decent amount of stimulus because you're going to accumulate a good amount of fatigue. But if you stay in sort of 8, 10, 15 reps short of failure, you're not going to really instill that much fatigue. So that is us done, guys. Thank you so much for joining us today. We covered a lot of stuff, some cool stuff, so I hopefully you enjoyed the joint friendly exercises. Please incorporate them and let us know on Instagram. Make sure you tag us on Instagram, links here. And also, if you haven't already, please like, subscribe, and also turn that little bell on, notification. It's going to allow you to be updated when videos do come out. If you haven't already, go check out the podcast. Guys, this information is there for you. It's for those of you who need the help. Link is below. Go listen to some episodes. Broaden your knowledge and capacity, and not just from me. I'm interviewing other people on this as well. You're going to get a really broad spectrum of knowledge and education so you can apply it in your own lives and better your own lives practically and immediately as well. Make sure if you are interested in hypertrophy or online coaching, grab the book. The links are below. They're cheap as fuck, and they're going to help you a hell of a lot. Rather than you sort of spinning your wheels trying to figure out what the hell to do or where to go, follow a proven system that's got myself and all my clients' results. Go to the website, see the testimonials, see the fucking proof that's there. There's nothing else, there's no other excuse that you can have. You've got the proof that's there. Invest in yourself and make sure that 2021 is going to be your best year yet. Guys, hopefully you enjoyed. Have a great day, and please, as always, share your stories with us, your training stories, your success stories as well. We love hearing about them. Have a great day. If you want to optimize your health, fitness, and lifestyle and learn the tools and the tricks and the knowledge to be able to sustain a healthy and fit lifestyle, then please go check out my books on my website. As a loyal subscriber, you get a cheeky little discount, so I'll see you in there.